What is up, and welcome back to another episode of So There's That. I'm your hostess, doing the mostest, Kevon Chi, and we are here with the finale of Earth Abides. Now, I don't know if there will be a season 2. I will say that by the time we get to the end of this recap, and by the time you get to the end of the episode, there is space for a season 2. But I think that the show is being pushed a little bit as a limited series right now, and it can go either way, but I'm gonna talk about that in the end because I think that how this was done is genius. Now, I have a little bit of a cold. I literally cannot hear myself right now, so I hope I'm not screaming too loud at everybody, and it will be just my luck for like it to be the end of the year and get my first cold at the end of the year. The ghetto. But anyway, Earth Abides, season 1, episode 6. The title, Forever is Tomorrow is Today. 45 minutes long. The teleplay was by Todd Komarnicki, and the director was Stephen Campinelli. So they definitely had a small team of people that they rotated throughout with writing the specific episodes and directing the specific episodes. We already know that it was created for television by Todd Komarnicki, but obviously in some of the other episodes we had lead teleplay writers for each episode. But we're closing it out with the man who brought this book from so many years ago to life. Where are we? Previously, Heather and Rafe left and they went on their own journey. We had a moment where Ish kicked Silas out, and I know a lot of people were like, I wonder if he's going to like come back, bring some more bad people around, and I was just like, I don't know that he'll come back per se, so much as he should probably figure out how to be like a better person. Then we saw the same thing that took out everybody else when the world ended with this like crazy flu strain has come through, and a lot of people are sick, including Joey. In the now of things, we're still in year 20, and we open up this episode with Heather telling Jean and Ezra what happened to Rafe. So they were out, they were just exploring and just being teenagers. Of course they lied and said that they were coming back for before it got cold. They're just out exploring, learning, having their little young love and everything like that. During this time, they end up coming across like these numbers and these arrows, 147225, because they were looking for signs of life in other people, but it never led anywhere. But what they were able to find, I don't know if y'all remember, but when Ish got mauled, Heather was one of the kids, she was only 13, out there with Molly helping put him back together. So we know Ish has been reading to them, teaching them. They still have school, and she recognizes that one of the trees that they found has like total healing properties. So not only the leaves, but the stems, the bark, the sap, everything from the tree. So she's like, okay, Rafe, go ahead and cut here. We'll do all those things. So I'm assuming that just over the years, she's kind of just become a nurse per se, or maybe even another doctor. She's grown up at this point with Molly and all her teachings, and she clearly has an interest in medicine. And she comes back and she sees like this scruffy man, like beard and stuff all over the place, hair is wild. And when she comes back to Rafe, she's like, okay, let's just like pack up our stuff, like this, you know, let's just get what we need to do, but we need to be careful and stuff like that. When the man snatches Rafe from behind, he's like, give me your food, give me everything that you have. And she's like, listen, just let him go. Like, we'll give you whatever it is that you need. Like, just please just let us go. Like, we're not trying to hurt you. We don't want to do anything. And when Rafe was fighting to try to get away, you get a look at the man's face as he's stabbing Rafe in the back. And who is it? It's Silas, y'all. It's Silas. So she did one of the coolest things ever that we've seen the kids do. In her reaction, she throws an axe and hits him right in the face. That's what I'm talking about. Fight for your man. And I just love seeing women be distraught and fighters in shows like this. It was very Michonne, and more importantly, in this show, it was very Emma. And unfortunately, we found out that Silas killed Rafe, and they would have never known who he was, and he didn't know who they were because they weren't there when he showed up. So it was really just an unfortunate event that happened, but she buried him, and when the Jeep broke down, she walked back home. It took her weeks to walk back. So just that strength and that determination that she had to make it back and to make it home and still be able to bring back the supplies needed for the hospital bay. And you know, I was really worried about how Jean would react to this news, and she ended up going to her room. Jean has been sober this whole time, barely smoking cigarettes, and she pours a shot for Rafe, and you can just tell that she's heartbroken, as anybody would be. And Ezra is heartbroken because above all, that was their biological child that they created before they even knew Molly. And she drinks it, and I'm just like, oh my God, like, oh no, like, you've come so far, like, you know, don't regress. And she pours another shot, and she says, this one is for you, Olivia, who's still here. And then the camera pans, and as she walks out the room, the shot was still sitting on the dresser. In the last 3 episodes, I have been talking about Jean's growth, and it's so weird because Jean is not necessarily on the camera all the time, but her character growth in the way that the actress gives her so much when she's on the screen. I'm sorry guys if you're watching this, I'm struggling because I'm trying to like not sniffle the whole time. But so any awkward pauses, even those listening, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to breathe. Even in this, it's like, okay, we know that she has addiction, and addiction is something that you fight forever. We know that she has depression, and that's something that you fight forever. It doesn't just go away. You just learn to live, and you find other means to cope, and hopefully you find community that understands you and understands your addictions and your depressions enough to help see you through. And so I was really proud that she allowed herself this moment of regression, of vulnerability, because it's her son. And in that, by pouring another shot for the kid who lives, she also proved to herself that she doesn't have to sink in alcohol like she did before. She's stronger, she's better, and there's still someone that she has to show up for. So I really, really love that shot. Love that the camera did that. Love the decision that was made and how that whole scene came together. Meanwhile, Ish comes back, and I found out that yes, Emma knew that he went to the town to get more medicines and to try to do anything, like to do what he can. And he came back, and Heather's in there doing her duties with her brother, but also just being really professional and taking care of him. And Ish is spiraling, and he's trying to like do a blood transfusion or whatever. Like, I want to give him my immunity and all this other stuff. And Heather's like, first of all, you're scaring him. So let's stop that right now. And it's not your job to keep him alive. Like, that is not something that you can determine. And it's just like, you know, it is my job. And Heather's just like, look, Dad, I have a job to do. I love my brother a lot too, and I hate to see him like this, but everything that you're doing and the way that you are reacting, is this who you want him to see when he wakes up? Because Joey is just in and out of sleep with a fever that just will not break. And Ish is very worried. So when he finally takes the medicines to Molly, he gives her all the stuff, but he's just like, it's not breaking, like we need to do something. And my first thought was, well, if you took him to the hospital like she told you to, you probably wouldn't be in this predicament. But because your ego is here and because any control issues that you had in your former life is here, you feel that you have to be this man and this macho person to solve all of the things. And it's kind of, I won't say that his grief is irrational, because grief is inherently irrational. It's not something that you can quantify, and it's not something that you can qualify because it looks different on everybody else. But there's something driving Ish specifically behind Joey in these moments that you really are fighting to understand as a viewer. So Molly's like, look, get him into an ice bath real fast, because if his body's not fixing it, then we need to try something else to at least bring that down and get him to last another night. So Ish carries Joey and he goes over to Maurine and Jorge's house, and he's asked Jorge, can you please come with me? I need to take him to the ice bath. And so they're going down there, and Jorge's like, okay, I'm with you, friend. Like, I'm with you, my friend. But like, why did you come to me? Like, you could have just put him in a tub. And Ish says, I'm not a religious man, but you are. And right now I need a miracle. And we get this other instance of Ish questioning finally the why of things. Like we said in the last episode, he's asked the what, the when, the where, the who, and the how, but he never asks why. And you're watching somebody who vehemently did not believe in God, did not believe in higher beings, only believed in what he could see, what he could touch. And yet in his distress, he's calling on someone who cannot do anything except rely on blind faith in this moment, because he needs to lean on Jorge for that same blind faith that his son will be okay. The next day, Ish is always parked in the room, and he's looking a mess. His hair is a mess. He probably hasn't bathed. He hasn't shaved. He hasn't done anything. And Emma is in there, and Heather's in there checking on her brother. And Emma has the paste. So Molly was able to create like a paste, some medicines and stuff from everything that Heather had brought back. And we see that it's working on a lot of people, but some people it's just not taking. And unfortunately in real life, like, that's what happens. Like, there is no 100% cure for so many things, especially something like an aggressive flu strain, because no one strain is the same, and how it reacts to your body is different. And we don't know what pre-existing conditions anybody's had. We don't know what the people were born with, all of these new kids. We have no idea what their parents had and what recessive traits and genes and chromosomal abnormalities or dormant things that lie asleep until an infection or something comes along. So we have no idea how that's going to work. And Heather's like, well, let's keep trying. And you finally see Emma kind of panic a little bit. And she's like, I'm trying. And Joey wakes up and he calls his dad over. And it is like not looking good. And I feel like I'm about to cry. And I'm not even ovulating. That's crazy, guys. I've been having like normal feelings. So he calls Ish over and he's like, when I go, where will I go? And in the darkness, how will I be able to find you? And Ish is like, Emma is just losing it at this point. And Ish has his hand, Emma has his hand, and Ish is just trying to reassure him, like, I'll always be here, like, you'll always find me, and all these other things. And Joey has his last breath, and his hand gently lets go of Ish's, and it is just not good. Emma is bawling. Ish just spirals. And Heather truly is the only family member, because Alex was not around, but she's the only one kind of in that room who's composed, I guess you could say. And it's something about being in the medical field where even when it hurts you, your training kicks in, because there's other things that need to happen once someone passes away. And part of that is kind of being like a grief counselor to the family, especially when it's unexpected. And so we get a lot of voiceover from Ish. We get a lot of scenes of Ish just spiraling, driving around, going to the library, pulling out all of these books, getting ready to set it on fire. But we also get the overlay of the people that they actually lost. And we see 4 graves in the ground as the community is having a funeral. And so it's kind of like you're seeing Ish's immediate reaction while seeing images of the community mourning those who they lost after this flu came through. So it's kind of like 2 things are happening at once, but we're still in year 20. Emma finds Ish getting ready to set all these books on fire, and thus the library. Like, he's just not making smart decisions. And she tells him, you're not the only one who's lost. And we have living children that need us. And later that night, she's in bed and, you know, she tells him, like, living, I wrote it down in a quote, but I just want to just give this as I remember it. And because this episode just, we'll get to the end. I'm like getting ahead of myself, but I really love this show, to be honest. And this episode is just beautiful. But she just tells him, like, basically, like, living is cruel because you're living just to watch people die around you. And I cannot do this by myself. I cannot carry this by myself. I chose you, and I need you to help do this with me and carry this grief and carry this pain with me because we chose each other. And you finally see Ish kind of go back to, it was almost like the same night that she told him about her daughters. And you see Ish kind of go back behind his eyes to that moment and realize that he's been a little selfish in thinking that he is the only one who has a claim on grief and a claim on pain. And he kind of ignored what his wife was going through. And so in this moment, they are now, like, here together. So we move into the next year, and it's just finally cleaning out Joey's room. And he finds a journal and he opens it, and the first thing it says is, like, this is my dad's journal, but he never uses it. And it's just going through the pages, and it's all of these different scales and images and drawings and all these things where you could get parts and stuff like that. And one of the last entries is basically a voiceover of Joey saying, I know my dad doesn't want to find other people and let other people in, but I hope that he gets to a place where he can allow that space in his life and in his heart, because I know that there are other people out there, and if we just continue to work together, we can literally just build a better place. So even in death, Joey is still, like, the driver of these things, and you get to see Ish kind of show why he was so close with Joey and why there was so much pressure behind him getting Joey to live. And it's because Joey was, like, his hope for the future. He was gifted. He was extremely smart for his age. And I think accidentally there was a pressure put on Joey by Ish that basically made his other son feel neglected. And so all of this is kind of washing over Ish. And again, even his own kid just calling out his fear, not in a way that will admonish him, but in a way that he hopes that his dad can free himself from his own fear and from his own pain. So he brings all of this up, and he brings the core crew, and you know, they're still very much proud of Joey. Like, he was always thinking, he was always believing, and they decide to build a radio tower. So they're building a radio tower, everything is working, and in this moment, Ish and Ezra are up putting up the final touches, and Ish is like, look, I wanted to come up here with you because I wanted some one-on-one time, and I just wanted to tell you, like, when you first came here, I was really unfair. I was almost unkind, and I judged you, and you're not like that at all. And Ezra is just like the jokester, but you could tell that this means a lot to him, that even after over a decade, this is the first time Ish has kind of circled back and closed the loop on his feelings. Ezra knew that he felt that way about them when they came, but they just kind of leaned into Emma and just kept it going. And Ish is like, you know, I like you, like you're good. And they actually hug it out. And this is something that I talk about, especially when I did my show, when I did recaps of the show Johnson on Bounce TV, and you can watch all 4 seasons on Hulu. Male friendships, specifically male friendships where vulnerability is allowed, it's so important. And it was really important in this moment for Ish to acknowledge that his first male friend was the one he didn't even really want. Like, yes, Jorge and Maurine were there, but I think he looked at them as maybe family. Like, the way that they came in, like he says that Ezra and Molly and them kind of came in like thieves in the night. Like, this was all of his voiceover and all of his inhibitions and his worries about their group when they came. And he talked about in those previous episodes about how it was different than Maureen and Jorge, and there was warmth in there. And so where Jorge is seen like a brother, Ezra is truly Ish's first friend. So I really love that moment up at the tower. So later on, the tower is there. He's in the radio room. He's calling out to different frequencies. Nobody's answering. When Emma comes in and she's like, hey, we're playing some baseball. And he was like, how are we doing that? And so they go outside. Hold on, gotta clear my nose. So they go outside, and this is like, I don't know. This whole scene reminded me of just my childhood. The baseball bat was a pipe. The baseballs were lines and lemons. They had like a couple of baseball gloves, and the rest was oven mitts. They had pillows as the bases and stuff like that. And so it really, it took me back, because as a kid, that's literally what we did. We finna get some cardboard boxes. We finna get some pillows. We finna get anything to just play and have a good time. And they needed this. And you really get to see that it's about continuing. It's about moving forward together. Let's grieve, but let's move forward together, because we all rely on one another. And we can't get so locked into our own grief and our own depression that the rest of the community suffers for it. And so everybody is around, and they're just having a really, 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 really good time. So they're in like a little timeout session, and Heather comes over and she's talking to Emma and she's talking to Ish. And for some reason, they get back on the topic of Heather and what she was looking for, and how she ended up seeing these random numbers and some arrows, but they never led to anything. And she was like, you know, like 147225, and we followed it and it was up everywhere, but it didn't lead to no people. And so Ish is like, hold that thought. So he runs back inside the control room, and everybody kind of slowly comes in, because they're just like, why? Like, we have a game going on. So he punches in the coordinates and he calls out there, and lo and behold, somebody answers. And their name of where they are is called let me look it up because I actually wrote this down because it's important. So they are at Point Lobo, which is a little bit less than 100 miles away, when Alex says, wait, Lobo means wolf in Spanish. And then they're like, wait a minute, San Lupo, Point Lobo, wolf and wolf, like what are the odds? So everybody in the room is excited. Emma's introducing herself. Jorge's like, do y'all got some cigars? Like, what's up? When Ezra's like, wait a minute. How do we know like that this is safe? We have something here. We don't want to just jump in. When the lady jumps back on and she says, I feel that the reason y'all just kind of like stopped a little bit is because of your hesitation. Trust and believe. We felt the same way. But we decided to put up our sign so that if anybody is out there that they can find us. And it reminds me of Emma so much because that was the whole purpose of her putting up her sign and letting them know like there is a home here at San Lupo. And they did the same thing except with coordinates that says that there's a home here at Point Lobo. And with that, everyone is just happy and excited and they decide that they're gonna take a chance. And so we get this beautiful shot of Ish finally looking happy, and we're pushing in on his eyes, a slow camera push, and then we end up pulling back from the camera and we see that it is the year 50. So 50 years post the original pandemic. Ish is old, and he hands this guy a hammer and he starts walking down the street of what looks like San Lupo. And it turns out that it's Heather's oldest son. And his name is Jack. And Ish says to him, it's time. And Jack asks, like, you know, why me? And he tells him, men go and come, but the earth abides. So, one thing that I really like about this is that in this moment, I know words, I know what abides mean. But when you think about a lot of times, and you think about like abiding by rules and stuff like that, a lot of it goes with like obedience or following the rules and stuff like that. As Ish said this last line, I instinctively knew that this is not what he meant. So finally, I looked this up. And I specifically looked up the biblical meaning of the word abide. Because Ish has been on, like, an undercurrent of all of this is Ish and his spiritual journey about faith and about trust. So something told me, Google the biblical meaning of abide. And it means to live, to continue, or to remain. And that final lesson is literally like, we will come and we will pass away, and our kids will do the same thing, and the cycle will be endless. But the earth will live, the earth will continue and endure, and the earth will remain. Period. It is the existence. And we have to respect that as the truth and as the facts. And before we get to the credits, it's just beautiful shots of different parts of the earth, animals, insects, and stuff like that. And it just brings together the entire show and the entire plot and meaning behind Earth Abides. So there's that. Forever is tomorrow is today. The title alone. We are so future driven in everything that we do. It's like everything has to be ready for tomorrow and all these other things that we forget to stop and live in the moment. And it's kind of like that phrase when it be like, the future is now. And a lot of that phrase is used in like tech because, oh, we're making waves. But forever is tomorrow. When you wake up, that is your forever. And what you're living in right now is your forever. Because when you are no longer here, the last of the memories and stuff that you have on your last breath are these moments. It's not what you can see ahead of you. It's everything that you can see right now in front of you and everything that you've lived up until that point. So I really love the title of this episode. The show itself, like, I feel like the people who should be watching this show probably ain't gonna watch it, and that's sad because overall the message is humans are insufferable, they are selfish, everything is pillaged for humans' bottom line. And the earth said, no, not anymore. So we're taking back what belongs to us so that we can cleanse and so that we can start over. And what I really, really love about this type of post-apocalyptic show is there is no enemy in here. So I've been comparing it to The Walking Dead. I think that's the most like recent zombie show that's like super acclaimed. The enemy was the zombie, and you could evade the zombie. Don't get bitten. And if people died, you know, kill the brain because it will come back as a zombie. And because there was an enemy and because you were able to defeat the thing that the earth tried to use to get rid of you, even bad people had a chance at continuing to live. But did they take this chance and this opportunity to be like, maybe I should turn my life around? No. They just linked up with other bad people. And instead of trying to create community with other people who were kind, they're like, no, you're going to come under my regime or I'm going to kill every single one of you. And it's just going to be what it's going to be. Whereas here, this thing took out anybody. Everybody could get it. Good, bad, indifferent, child, elderly, regular age. And so because the thing that you are fighting is unknown to you and is invisible to you, you have no choice but to submit to moving forward. You have no choice. Who are you blaming? Who are you going to beat up? You're going to beat up the flu? You're going to beat up COVID? Like, what are we doing? We're fighting air right now? There's nothing that you can do. And so because it's nothing that you can do, the people, whether who they were in their past lives was bad or not, we never really got to see too much of that because it didn't matter. Because at any moment, you sneeze, you cough, you catch a fever, this could be the end. So everybody was forced to look at their life and look at the behaviors that they did before and ask themselves, do I still want to do that, or do I want to change who I am and how I fundamentally think in order to make a way forward for the future? I don't have to be greedy. I don't have to be data driven. I don't have to be on the internet. I don't have to be validated by all of these other people around me. Who am I? And it forces you to sit with yourself and actually move forward. Not just survive and huddle down in fear, but to live in spite of that lingering fear in the first place. So just overall, that journey from episode 1 to episode 6 and not having the stress of an enemy, especially for the viewer, right? I feel like it keeps the viewer on the edge of the seats. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? No, it can't be like this. They can't be this happy. They can't. No. Like something has to happen. And as a viewer, when you're having these thoughts, it forces you to sit back and be like, wow, people can just be kind because they're kind. The other shoe doesn't have to drop because there is no other shoe. Both feet are planted on the ground. And it makes you as a viewer believe that you can take people as they are without trying to search for a hidden agenda. Even with Charlie's character, Ish was searching for a hidden agenda. Was he right? Yes. But we look at how Emma handled the situation, and Emma was just like, he's not doing anything now. And if he does, okay, we'll take care of it. She's kind. She never allowed the potential of people to be dangerous keep her from being kind, keep her from wanting community, and it never hardened her heart. And when Charlie was found out, she said, okay, I was wrong, we're gonna handle it, but I'm not gonna assume that everybody in his group was that way either, so we will offer them a space to stay if they choose to live with kindness. So her character is just unlike any character I've ever seen. I was tweeting with the actress on Twitter, and I said, like, Emma is the most complete character I think I've ever seen written. She is flawed. She feels pain. She feels grief. She is strong. She is a fighter. She loves. She is a mother. She is a nurturer. Like, everything about her is just human. And I think, like, also as a black woman, it's just really important to see, because she wasn't troped as a strong black woman helming the community on her back. She had a true partner in a true community full of a whole bunch of other people, but she was in a space to where in her previous life, she probably would have never had this type of life. Because as black women, you have to protect yourself against everybody. But in this life, because she is inherently kind, she chose to move forward thinking that, okay, maybe I won't encounter racism. Maybe I won't encounter sexism. Maybe I won't be looked at as the problem solver. Maybe someone will see me and know that I grieve, that I hurt, and that I am in pain too. Maybe someone will see me and see that I am both soft as well as hard. And something the actress said in an interview was, when Ish showed up, yes, she had a gun, but Ish immediately showed her who he was, and she did the same thing back. And she's just a very intuitive character, but it never made her want to close off from other people. Whereas Ish was really battling his old self a lot in these last 3 episodes. But she is the heart. She's the heart of the community. And she's his heart. Because ultimately, she keeps him grounded in the today of things, so that they can continue to move forward and continue to build. So I just, shout out to you, Jessica Francis Dukes, Jessie F. Dukes on Twitter. I know the writers do a lot, and the writers deserve so much, because an actor can only do so much with like bad writing. So it's phenomenal writing, and the preparation and the conversations and stuff that I know that actors have with each other, with themselves, how, with the director, how do you want the scene to go and stuff like that. The characters of Ish and Emma are just so well put together, and this story of this book written in 1949 is still so true in 2024, and I just love that so much. So obviously the show is a 10 out of 10 for me. Yeah, so that's gonna wrap up Earth Abides, y'all. I can't believe I gotta move on to another show on Sundays. That's crazy. But yeah, I hope you liked this recap. As always, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment in the comment box below. Again, share that Spotify and that Apple Podcast link for those who just like to listen to the stories, you know what I'm saying? And you can always find me on Instagram at So There's That Podcast. So many things coming in the new year, revamping some things. I'm not necessarily doing anything new, but we're getting deep in our bag. Okay, we're getting deep in our bag. And yeah, you can always find me on Twitter at Kivonchi, as well as Blue Sky at Kivonchi. And I'm going to go get me some Theraflu and some medications. Let's see. Yeah, this is my last video of 2024. I don't know why I started yelling, but this is my last video of 2024. So thank y'all for rocking with me since I hopped on here in July. Thank you for all the comments, all the likes, all the shares. If you followed me on any of my social media because of this, if you subscribe, thank you so much. I appreciate it a lot. I'm just a girl who likes film and television, who is in the industry, but am also just like a complete geek and nerd about the industry. And I'm having a really fun time coming on here nerding out about characters and writing and certain shots and cinematography and wardrobe and music and anything else that I decide to talk about. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, and happy new year. I will see y'all on January 1st. Okay, goodbye.